welcome. It's so nice to make some international friends. So a huge thank you to Dr. Norbu Ling for hosting me, and also welcome to the Brisbane people here from Lungri Tangpa Centre. So we're about to embark on a short 4-week course, How Buddhism Helps, and using the kind of the basic amazing root text 3 principal aspects of the path, which you may or may not have heard of. You may know what those principal aspects are, what those topics are. I know when I started delving into them, they weren't what they seemed. They were actually quite different. And so how this kind of bite-sized, wonderfully kind of presented short teaching can help us, whether we're Buddhist or not, and how it can help us now in the short term with our immediate issues, but not just putting a limit on there, actually the long-term benefit as well. So we're going to have a look at today the what Buddhism is, the part of how Buddhism helps, and then how Buddhism can actually help. What does it help with? So setting the groundwork, really. There are notes for the course and reflection sheets and meditation. So they're for the next 3 classes. But on the materials link, there are the slides for this class. And there's also some links to some amazing teachings with Lama Yeshe, and a really cute little 3-minute video of Lama Zopa Rinpoche explaining the 3 principal aspects with this little pop-up card of ballet dancers, which is quite extraordinary. So what we can do is to set our motivation for today in a very informal way, but still valid, in the spirit of kindness and curiosity. So we can start off with this feeling of kindness for ourselves, being gentle and kind on ourselves. Life is hard and challenging and confusing, and so the appropriate response is to be kind and encouraging. And many of us don't have that internal voice. We may have it to others, but we're not necessarily very kind to ourselves. So kindness, understanding that, you know, we all have feelings and we all matter. None of us wants to suffer. We all want to be happy. And then the curiosity part, well, what can we do about it? Luckily, there's a huge range of wisdom where that we can draw on. And so instead of kind of feeling put upon, or feeling that we should be doing better, or feeling that we should know more, or any of those things, to just relax and have an attitude of curiosity of, I wonder what's available to me. I wonder what I can discover. How fascinating to actually have the inner life and to be able to do something to bring great meaning and great peace and happiness to our life. So how Buddhism helps. We're going to be using the 3 principal aspects, which are termed renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. So we'll have a look at what they are in a moment. But just to set the scene, since we're talking about Buddhism, what is Buddhism? I'm going to pose a question to you all. Many people have asked, you know, so what do you reckon? Is Buddhism a science? Is it a psychology? A philosophy? A religion? You might feel that it's some of those or all of those, maybe none of them. Every time that I ask people what they reckon about this, they have a different answer. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama was actually asked this question at teachings given in Brisbane. And he gave a very interesting answer, which I found absolutely fascinating. And the first thing that he said Buddhism was a science. What a science of what? A science of the mind. So an internal science. our Western science is very much focused on the external world, the physical world, things that we can measure physically, even to the very most subtle with incredible microscopes and things like that. It's still physical evidence. But Buddhism is a mind science. So it's about the inner science of our experience, how we exist in the world, how we're interrelated, how and with a very precise and sophisticated model. So just like our Western science is incredibly sophisticated, you know, just nowadays when kids grow up in school and they learn about, you know, gravity and Einstein and E equals MC squared and all of these things that just a few years ago would have been the equivalent of crystal ball gazing, you know. So we have a very sophisticated understanding of the natural physical world. But the inner science, understanding the mind, we don't have such a great understanding. A lot of it's just made up theories using nice acronyms. So the experience, the inner world, how we make our world, the way that we frame the world, how we describe the world makes our world. There is no objective world out there. It's to do with how we name it. So that's borne out with Western science, but it's also borne out in a far more profound way with the science of the mind. And the technology that we use, instead of technology, physical instruments, we use the technology of mental awareness and analysis, which is also something that we need to learn how to use and master. So a lot of this, when you come down to the very fine, subtle points of, say, quantum physics and neuroscience and the Buddhist understanding of mind and how we exist, they're very parallel. They really accord well with each other. So on the very small, also on an environmental level, when we look at how everything that we do has an effect. I mean, karma, cause and effect. So intellectually we may understand it, but as human beings, we certainly haven't integrated it into our life, because we just have to look at pollution and climate change. So no one set out to ruin the planet on purpose. And yet here we are reaping the results of that. And it's a big shock. So, you know, we can't ignore cause and effect. And if we can understand cause and effect, how it works within our own mind and our own experience and how it makes our world, and then has these very long-term consequences, then we'll have a far more realistic understanding of the world. So the basis is science. And then out of this science of the mind and phenomenology comes an ethical system. So the ethical system isn't something that's just a nice idea or made up or full of a kind of moralism of you should do this or you shouldn't do that. The ethical system is a natural result of understanding how things work. So because what we do have consequences, what all of our actions have results, therefore we've got to pay attention how we act. So then the ethics comes out of it, which is really wonderful. So it means that our ethical behavior is supported by wisdom. And this means that ethics isn't just a nice to have. It's not just something that we ascribe to when it's convenient, but when it comes down to it, economics is the thing that does it. Because we've seen the consequences of that with pollution and with conflicts, political conflicts. So compassion and ethical conduct isn't this optional extra, but it's actually the basis of life. It's the basis of sustainability of our planet. And it's supported by the science. So far, you know, we've got science and we've got ethics. Religion hasn't even come into it yet. Belief hasn't even come into it, really. And so far, you don't even have to be religious to benefit from Buddhism. But out of that comes the ritual expression. So all of the pujas and all of the artworks and the chanting and the mantras and the visualization, all of the ceremonies, the retreats, they are a ritual expression that uses all of our senses, but what they're an expression of is the ethical system and the science, the mind science. So at first, you might think, oh, it's, you know, it's all nice. It's maybe a bit quaint, a nice cultural, you know, expression that you like, or maybe you don't like. But actually, it's rich in meaning. And if you can decode it, if you can understand the meaning, it really brings it alive, because with science, often what we're doing is reading a list, and it can be quite dry. Or with ethics, you get this whole list of things to do and things not to do, and you know, you can feel quite put upon or disagree. But when it comes to the ritual expression, you use your whole being as a human being. We love art, we love music, we like going to the theatre. All of this moves us and enriches our life. So we use all of that on the path to enlightenment, on the path to awakening, wisdom, compassion. So it's all there. Any Buddhist tanka or painting that you look at, it has the entire path to enlightenment in it, symbolically, and you need to know how to read it. But it works even if you can't read it. If you just do the practices, they will work. Just like if you have a science experiment and you put this chemical in and that chemical in, whether you know what you're doing or not, you get the reaction, you get the result. So with the Buddhist practices, whether you understand it or not, thank goodness, we can still benefit from the result. So it really quickens our progress. And it also means that if you're not comfortable with the rituals, maybe because you've got this superstition kind of thing that, you know, red flags come up, that's okay. You don't have to push it. You don't have to just dive in and take on all the cultural trappings without understanding what they mean. You know, take your time, take it easy, and slowly build up a really coherent foundation that's got all these levels in it. So in terms of Buddhism then, I mean, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said you can take up to 5 years to figure out if you're a Buddhist or not. You kind of just look back each year, New Year's Eve comes along and you check out, how am I going? Has this path been of benefit to me? Have people said I've become a nicer person? Have I been able to solve problems that I haven't been able to solve before? All of these things, then you can take stock bit by bit. It's like an evidence-based. Susan, so yes, the emphasis on philosophy, I really like that, and I actually came to Buddhism via philosophy in a way, because you know, my first amazing kind of delving into everything was Nietzsche and postmodernist readings of Nietzsche. I just love him. And then on the creative side of things, the author that had the most effect on me, Jean Genet, who's also pretty out there. So, you know, I really got inspired and moved by them. But what I found, the Buddhist philosophy gave the basis to it. It was like my ultimate checklist. And it had the method. And a lot of Western philosophy has insights, but no method. Where do we go with it? So you can end up kind of falling into nihilism accidentally. So that's the Buddhism part. Now let's look at the help part and the 3 principal aspects, how we get the help. And what this teaching is wonderful because they're in bite-sized chunks. If you're going to have a look at the Buddhist path in a really wonderful, easy to hold on to and digest way, these 3 principal aspects of the Mahayana path are the way to go. So it's a brilliant way for beginners to start. They form a comprehensive approach. Comprehensive in that we're talking about reality, self, and others. We need to address all 3 if we are going to accomplish the happiness that we seek, the peace of mind that we seek. if we can want to help those that we love, if we want to save the planet, if we want to figure out why we're here, all of those things, we need this comprehensive approach. So the three principal aspects are represented by a lotus, a moon, and a sun. So the lotus represents renunciation. So don't get put off by the word renunciation. Actually, what it translates into from the Tibetan means definite emergence. Just like a lotus emerges out of the mud. And not only does it emerge, it doesn't come out all dirty and dripping in gunk. It comes out pristine and pure. So this, the definite emergence is this wish. Renunciation is a wish to become free of the cycle of suffering and dissatisfaction. So in a way, it's like when we think, oh, I'm just sick of it all, which no doubt we've all had that feeling, but it takes it a step further and it goes, not only am I sick of it all, sick of all the suffering, I am also sick of all the causes of suffering. I'm going to have a look at those, taking cause and effect into consideration. So the renunciation, or this thought of definite emergence, really wanting to emerge from this never-ending cycle, that's the work for oneself. That's the whole purpose of life for oneself. And it's to become free, and especially to become free of attachment and grasping and clinging and dissatisfaction. Then, so that's the personal journey. And what's so lovely about the lotus is how it is unsullied, it's pure. And what that can remind us of is that regardless of how distressed we are, our mind by nature is pure, good, clean, and clear. Whether we feel it like that or not, that depends on a huge amount of factors. But by nature, it's naturally pure. And that's what the lotus is there to remind us about. So that's the renunciation. Then Bodhicitta is represented by the moon, a moon disk, the beautiful cooling rays of the moon. And it has a lot to do with compassion, but great compassion, capital G, capital C, great compassion, meaning compassion that is unbiased and compassion that takes responsibility for others. So where renunciation is the work for oneself, bodhicitta is the work for others. So often they're called the two purposes in life, self and others. So bodhicitta, or, you know, this unbiased, great compassion, it's really important that we start to develop that right now, because all of us have compassion to a degree, but usually it's got favoritism in it. It's biased. We have compassion for those that we perceive as suffering. And it's very rare that we have compassion for the aggressor, compassion for the troublemaker, compassion for those that hurt others, compassion for those with maliciousness. It's very difficult for us to generate compassion for them. So in that, our compassion is biased, and our love is also biased. We care about those that are close to us. And if anybody harms those close to us, we want to harm them back. So when our love and our compassion are biased or have that kind of favoritism, tragically, they can lead to conflict. Our compassion can lead to conflict. That's a terrible state of affairs. That's how come the world has conflict, because we're at odds with each other. We have that kind of bias. So that's one main point about bodhicitta. The other thing is that when we have great compassion and it's unbiased, doesn't have favoritism, it has this amazing benefit for us too. And it means that we don't burn out. We don't give up on people. And this is a real big thing in our culture, isn't it? A burnout. they even call it like compassion fatigue. So in the future classes, we'll have a much closer look at that. The other thing with compassion that it took me years to realize was that compassion isn't a feeling. It's an activity. You know, empathy is a feeling, but compassion has this sense of responsibility in there. So it's this attitude that takes responsibility. I want to be able to help. And so the moment we act, or we have this attitude of action, we get our agency back. We get our energy. We can do something about it, even if it's just a very small thing. So it gives us energy. So right there, I don't know about you guys, but it had a real different effect on me, just ordinary compassion, and then learning about great compassion and Bodhicitta. And the third one, what's called correct view, represented by the sun, the rays of the sun that illuminate the darkness and confusion of ignorance and the fear of ignorance. So the correct view is the wisdom understanding the nature of reality. And in a nutshell, we can think of it as understanding interdependence, understanding connection. How things exist, understanding how things exist on a relative level with connection, cause and effect, and on an ultimate level. So this worldview of interdependence, this is actually the way to free ourselves and others. And it's not like a belief or a magic ingredient that changes things, abracadabra. It's actually removing a mistaken way of looking at the world. So it's like we begin to see reality clearly. We remove the veils. It's not a dogma or a belief system. It can start off feeling like a dogma because you've got to learn about it. But slowly that dogma begins to accord with reality, and we'll be able to see beyond dogma, beyond philosophy, to actually a direct experience of reality. And that's what frees us. All of our unhappiness, all of our angst, all of our anguish comes from a mistaken view of the world and ourselves. And because it's a mistake, it can be rectified. So are there any questions or comments that anybody has? Just you can put them into the chat, or you can turn your camera on and wave at me. I know I've been barreling on for quite a while now. So is there anything that's come up at all? Anna, yes. Did you have something?
Hi, Miffi. Yeah, I find that really interesting and makes complete sense about compassion being an activity rather than an emotion. Absolutely see where the burnout comes from, which I suffer from, you know, like nearly every hour.
Yeah,
quite
right.
often, should we say. Are there any texts or references where that's, stated through our Dharma texts?
Yes, so the actual method of how to apply is in these three principal aspects of the path, and we will spend a lot more time on it on the Bodhicitta class, which is the one after next. But also a very good bridging approach that I found is all of the teachings from B. Alan Wallace called Cultivating Emotional Balance. So that is a secular program set up by B. Alan Wallace and Paul Ekman, famous neuroscientist, at the request of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so they do a lot of work on the difference between empathy and compassion. And also Matthew Ricard, who has written a huge fat book. You can barely hold it, but you can get through it really easily. And Matthew Ricard is, you might have seen a photograph of him online, you know, he's there in his monk's robes with all of the electrodes stuck all over his head with the wires coming out. Yeah. So he's been, through the MRI scan, proven to be the happiest person in the world. And so here's this amazing bridge too between Buddhism and neuroscience. But we will go into it more in the coming classes, Anna, so you'll have to come back.
I will. Thank you so much. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we've got what Buddhism is, how it helps. Let's take it back even further and look at, well, what can we rely on? How can we tell if Buddhism's the right path for us? How can we tell if what spiritual path we're on is going to help us, is an authentic path, is a path that can help us personally, will take us where we want to go? Peace, happiness, meaning, helping others, all of this stuff. So I thought I would put in this little teaching. It's like the ultimate checklist. And I'm a great lover of checklists. I've even read a book by Atul Gawande called The Checklist Manifesto. It's revolutionized my life. And this checklist is the one of how to tell if you have a valid refuge. So what you put your faith in, your confidence and trust in, your journey through life, where you seek your advice, is it valid? Is it true, going to help us? Because where do we normally seek guidance now? Usually it's our friends and family, what they reckon. Many people seek their guidance and advice from Facebook and YouTube, and that is like the Wild West frontier. How on earth can we tell what we're listening to is true or not? You know, how can we tell if what we're getting from the media is true or false? We have to be able to check for ourselves. So the Buddhists have this wonderful checklist that is good for everything. It's good for checking about a spiritual path, but it's also good to check what sports team to follow or what political party to follow. Let's have a look. The 4 qualities of a valid refuge. So they themselves have freed themselves from bondage. Whoever or whatever we're following has to have already left the rat race. They have to be free themselves. They can't be stuck in the rat race as well as us, and we expect them to free us. If we want to develop a good heart, we have to follow someone who already has a good heart. If we want to develop our wisdom, we have to follow someone who has a direct, unmistaken perception of reality. Just good intentions, just the wish to help, like our friends wish to help us, it's not enough. They can only help us if they themselves are free of the problems that we have. So that's number 1 thing to check. Number 2, do they have a method that can free others? Many people might have insights and a good heart, but not know how to help. Or they might have a solution, but it's for some other type of personality and it doesn't suit our own personality. Or they might have made up a method and they haven't tried it out. It's still in the testing phase. For us, we need a medicine for the mind, because it's the mind that suffers. It's our heart that suffers. We need a medicine for the heart. So what I found, for instance, in the West, that there are many really good methods, self-help methods, very practical, but they don't go very far. They don't take us all the way to completely removing the causes of suffering. And many of those people that made up those methods themselves, their life is in disarray, which doesn't inspire confidence. So we need both of them. Then the other 2, they have great compassion for everybody. So they're unbiased, no favoritism. Who are they working for? Everybody. Not just the chosen ones, not just the ones with money, not just the good ones, and the difficult ones can fend for themselves, not just the family or those close, but everyone's strangers, and not just Buddhists, but non-Buddhists. So compassion for everybody. And this is something that we can look at, you know, even if we're reading news reports, are they balanced like that? Or are they just feeding a certain interest group? His Holiness the Dalai Lama is a perfect example of this kind of unbiased compassion, because whenever he talks about, say, for instance, freedom for Tibet, he talks about freedom for all of the Chinese people as well. It's not at the expense of anybody, it's for everybody. So that's really something extraordinary. And the fourth point, that they aim to help everybody without favoritism. So then it's, what are they aiming to do? They're aiming, their sole purpose is the practice, is the inner life, is that inner journey to help everybody. It's not aiming to help for money or for status or for fame. What for? It's solely to help others with the practice, that inner life. So I hope you can use this valid refuge, this checklist. It's set me in good stead so many times. I think we owe it to ourselves to investigate whatever we get into. We have to investigate it using analysis, reasoning, so that we are engaging with a lot more than just blind faith. And we have to check against our own experience. Does it accord with our experience? Does it sit well with us? And so going through that checklist makes sure that that happens. It also makes sure that we don't get sucked into religious charlatans or someone that just because they have charisma, it's not enough. Just because it feels nice, that you enjoy their teachings, it's not enough. There's got to be a real strong core to it. Okay, so that's the refuge. That's our ultimate checklist. Now, just a little bit about those three principal aspects. And I wanted to read something from Lama Yeshe, so the essence of Tibetan Buddhism. This is a commentary on the three principal aspects, a very kind of an informal teaching that Lama Yeshe gave. And the link online on Thupten Norbu Ling is to Lama Yeshe's actual live teaching. And he's got an amazing way of putting things, you know, sometimes very gentle and funny, and other times, boom, straight between the eyes. So this is what he says about renunciation. You should not regard the three principal aspects of the path, or the three principal paths to enlightenment, as just a philosophical phenomenon. You should feel that they are there according to your own organic need. If you hunger for sentimental temporal pleasure, it's not so good. You don't have a big mind. Your mind becomes very narrow. You should know that pleasure is transitory. It's impermanent, coming and going like a Californian friend, going. When you have renunciation, you somehow lose your fanatical, oversensitive expectations. And then you experience less suffering. Your attitude is less neurotic, and you have fewer expectations and less frustration. Basically, our frustration is built up by superstition, the samsaric attitude, which is the opposite of renunciation of samsara, or renunciation of the rat race. Following samsara, you always end up unbalanced and trapped in misery. We know this, so you should see it clean and clear. This is the purpose of meditation. Meditation is not on the level of the object, what you're meditating on, but on the level of the subject. You are the business of your meditation. So it's such a direct approach, isn't it? This introduction to what renunciation is. So the breadth of the Buddhist teachings can be quite overwhelming, but oh yes, that's right. Investigate using your reasoning and logic and check with your own experience. How Buddhism actually helps, if we can develop renunciation, like Lama Yeshe said, we become less stressed. So that's how to get less stressed. Not to force ourselves to relax or don't stress, but actually to release all of that samsaric tightness, to have less craving. The other benefit is that we're able to live a life true to our values, so in harmony with our own inner values. And the result is that we have more courage. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't suffer from being shy, and who doesn't want more courage? And it also means, ironically, that we naturally enjoy ourselves. So here we are wanting happiness, wanting to enjoy ourselves, and yet it's so elusive because the act of grasping makes it run away. But if we can develop this renounced attitude, actually we start enjoying things more. Bodhicitta, the big-hearted attitude, that great compassion, that responsibility for the welfare of everybody, having this real wish to help everyone. What it does, the amazing effect it has on us, is that we naturally start acting with harm minimization. You know, we may not be able to be perfect, but we minimize the amount of damage that we do in our life. And this is a very practical approach. You know, medicine uses this harm minimization, prevention, you know, to stop things escalating in the first place. And then we can naturally help according to our capacity. And our capacity, you know, and our capacity might go up and down hour by hour. So instead of expecting too much of ourselves, we can be very honest and know what our capacity is at any time and act how we can without ever giving up the wish to act. And that's how we avoid burnout. We act according to our capacity, but we always have that wish to do more. And correct view, how that helps us? Well, we feel connected and instead of alienated. And so that's one of the big problems in our modern life, isn't it? A sense of alienation, of being alone, of being lonely. And then lockdown just brought that to the fore, didn't it? Everything going online just was like in your face, how alienated we are. Whereas actually we can be there physically alone, but very connected with everybody, just by changing our attitude and recognizing how we're all the same. You know, under the skin, there's all blood and bones there. Nobody wants to suffer. Everyone wants to be happy. And in that, we're all the same. In that, everybody is my people. So we start feeling connected. The correct view also means that we will be able to save the planet. We'll be able to see how. We'll be able to do it. We'll be able to always find opportunities. Because there are many ways to look at a situation, if we really take that on board, just like a good entrepreneur does, we'll be able to find the benefit in every situation and the way forward in every situation. So these three principal aspects, you know, they have an immediate benefit for us, but that's just the small part of the equation. Their big benefit, actually, the main purpose of them is our complete liberation from samsara and our full awakening into enlightenment and bringing everyone along with us. That's their actual purpose. But along the way, we get all these other extra amazing benefits too. So here's something else from Lama Yeshe as well. Many people, even in this country, have material problems because they are concerned only for themselves. Even though society offers many good situations, they're still in the craving realm. You're living in America, but you're still living in the craving realm. You're still living like a hungry ghost. Psychologically, it's important to recognize this. Don't think I'm just talking about something philosophical. You should help other people. I'm saying that if you want to be happy, eradicate your attachment. Cut your concrete concepts. The way to cut them is not troublesome. Just change your attitude. Switch your attitude. That's all. It's not really a big deal. It's really skillful, reasonable. The way Buddhism explains this is reasonable. It's not something that you have to believe in. I'm not saying you have to try and be Superwoman or Superman. It's reasonable and logical. Simply changing your attitude eliminates your concrete concepts. Remember equilibrium. Equilibrium doesn't mean that I equalize you externally. If that were so, you'd have to come to Nepal and eat only rice and dal. Equilibrium is not to do with the object, it's to do with the subject. It's my business. My two extreme minds, desire, the overestimated view and grabbing, and hatred, the underestimated view and rejecting, conflict, destroying my own peace. Oh, these two, conflict, destroying our own peace, happiness, and loving kindness. And in order to balance these two, I have to actualize equilibrium. So equilibrium is like the basis for those three principal aspects of the path. Equilibrium in terms of equalizing our attitude to others, equilibrium in terms of a middle way view of the world, in terms of a balanced way of acting according to our capacity, equilibrium also in terms of the basis of our life. That's where we start. So that's what I wanted to put it in for today's class. Before, in the next three sessions, we'll go into renunciation, then bodhicitta and correct view. But equilibrium, or how to keep calm and don't lose your head. So how on earth do we do that? How do we keep calm and not get distracted? You know, how do we maintain a level head? So cultivating a natural, realistic optimism, and that's part of the correct view. And it's an attitude of being flexible in our view and being willing to discover an opportunity in any situation. So because things depend on other things, they can change. Because of impermanence, things can change for the better. So that's the view. But what makes it so difficult to do that? Why do we still hang on to a resentment or to being in a funk or, you know, dwelling on how others hurt me or how they're no good? Why do we hang on to that? And that's because of our attachment. So we've got to recognize that it's actually attachment that ruins everything, including our happiness. And in fact, that our happiness doesn't come from all the stuff out there. Our happiness comes from within. Meaning our happiness depends on our capacity for happiness. We have to develop our capacity for a happy mind, and then we'll be happy. And one of the ways that we do this is to not sweat the small stuff. So our life is fleeting. You know, it has limitations. So what are we going to focus on? All the nitty-gritty stuff that we get distracted by, all the things that upset us and that we resent? Or are we going to focus on what really matters, what brings happiness to our heart, the values and the things that actually matter to us? So how to focus on what really matters? It's not as easy as it sounds. And I mean, some people can do it, but only if they have those big goals in mind. So I'll tell you this story. one of the famous Australian sports people, a lady called Sally Pearson, great runner, hurdler, you know, jumping over the things. She's had a very dramatic life. She actually she retrained after being this Olympic athlete. She's now a qualified doctor and working in a hospital dealing with COVID. But anyway, when she was a hurdler, there was one athletics meeting televised around the world where she was running along and she tripped and she fell and she broke her wrist, and you saw it happen. It just was like thought pain. You saw the angle that it went at and the bones stick out of the skin. It was just horrendous. A collective gasp, billions of people around the planet. And after her initial shock of this accident, in the interview afterwards, she said, "Oh my God, I am so lucky." I'm like, what? I'm so lucky that I didn't break my ankle. It was just my wrist. You know, I don't need that for running. I mean, you do for pumping, but so how can you think that? How can you even think that breaking your wrist like that is the small stuff? It's because unfailingly you have your mind on the goal. If you have your mind on the goal, you won't sweat the small stuff. And horrendously breaking your wrist, you will feel genuinely lucky because it meant she could still run. It was extraordinary. So that's just like one example of how this equilibrium and even-mindedness, you know, it comes from keeping our mind on the goal, the big picture, the three principal aspects of the path. Might be motivated by our immediate concerns now, but we take it further. And then we have this mind of equilibrium where we are free to keep our mind on the goal. So what I wanted to do at the end of this class now is just a short reflection on how to develop equanimity. And it doesn't have to be any kind of formal, you know, sit there with your eyes closed meditation. It's just like an inner reflection to take it down a level from just intellectual to really marrying it with our own experience, reflecting on our own inner life. And equanimity is not just flatlining. It's not bland, flat. It's actually feeling equal care for everybody. So it's quite different from being bland. And in our Western terminology, the closest thing to it is when counselors are taught to have something called assumed positive regard. So whoever comes to get counseling, who comes for help, you walk in the door and they have assumed positive regard for you. They're on your side. They are focusing on all your good points and how you're there to be helped. And everything where your life is coming apart and you've just done some terrible things and you're in big trouble, well, they're mistakes and they're going to help you. So that's this mind of equanimity. It's not just, oh yeah, here's this neutral person coming in and let's suss them out. It's assumed positive regard, care for everybody. So when we feel that we're on everyone's side, we're there for them, and ourselves personally, that's what makes a difference. Someone's giving us criticism, constructive feedback. The difference, whether we take it on board or not, is do we feel they're on our side? Are they supporting us or are they against us? So this is how to think about equanimity. So let's do this short reflection. Feeling equal care towards all. So we have three groups of people: those we love, who we feel really warmly towards, our pets, the lovely kitty cat with the hearts, our family, our friends. We have a whole category of people called strangers. And we just feel a bit meh about it. Like, you know, strangers, they don't even figure on our radar. Just we're kind of blank. And then we have enemies who we're frightened of, we don't like, we reject, we try and get away from instinctually. So we all have these three categories of how we sort people out in our mind. Just even walking into a room, we sort people out like this: like, don't like, or don't notice. So we start with our friends and we feel how we love them, how we care for them, and how we wish them the very best. And we enjoy that feeling of love and care that we have. We let it soften our heart and relax us. And we let ourselves enjoy it. With strangers, what we do is we just start noticing them. We start feeling interested. So everybody else is actually the majority, and everybody has their own story. And if we got to meet them and spend some time with them and hear their backstory, we naturally start to care about them. So it's like getting proactive, and we start having this natural curiosity about the strangers, the ones that we don't know. We just don't know them yet. And with enemies, what we do is we feel concern for them, because it's a way of recognizing, and this is why I put up a picture of a guard dog, because guard dogs, they're terrifying and often they're brutalized. They're brutalized animals. And they are not safe to be with, and you shouldn't go and give them a cuddle, because, you know, that's not going to turn out well. But it doesn't mean that we hate them or want to put them down or kill them or punish them. With a brutalized dog, we see all of their aggression comes from fear and mistreatment. So we feel concern, but it's not idiot concern. It's genuine concern, while still looking after our own safety and looking after their safety. So with enemies, you can think of them as like a brutalized guard dog. Yes, they are dangerous, but all of that, it can only come from one place, and that is suffering. Under that face, that fearsome face, is suffering, is terror, far greater than our own. So then a natural sense of concern can arise. So these are the three types of beings, I suppose, and how we meditate on it with those that we love. We start off with that feeling that love towards them in your heart as like a physical sensation, warm and lovely, and you feel it spread through your whole body. And then you expand that love to include everybody. So just like you feel such natural love and joy towards your pets, towards your children, your parents, your best friends, then you feel that physically spreading out to all beings, so that all children become your children, all pets become your pets. You care about them all equally, and you extend that love. So that is a really joyous meditation to do. And if you're ever down, that's the one to do. So you start thinking about all the pets in your street, all the children in your street, all the parents in your street, and sending the love to them. May you be happy. May you have everything that you need. And what this will do will also lessen our clinging to how our friends treat us. It stops being about us and it's about them. And so that keeps our love pure. Having this interest in strangers means that we raise the bar, and we go from being indifferent to naturally caring, even if we don't know them. And how we do that is actually by recognizing their kindness and recognizing all the things we have in common. So we just finding a little tenuous thing. We hear about stuff on the news all the time and we go, oh yeah, yada, 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 whatever. But if something happened on our street and it made the news, it's like, man, that happened in my street, just 2 doors down. Why does that make a difference? I didn't know them either way, but what it made a difference was it's incorporated into me and mine, my street. And the moment it's me and mine, it matters. So we can use that. But we start thinking everybody is me and mine, the human family. And not even just humans, but animals as well. All living beings are me and mine. So we raise the bar for everybody. They all start to matter. So we go from indifference to really recognizing not just that people matter, but the kindness of others, that all of society largely functions because everyone is by default naturally kind. It's only the aberrations that we notice. But actually, all of human civilization comes from the kindness of others. Wow. And the last one, feeling concern for one's enemies. How we do this. We judge the behavior, not the person. So not an angry dog or an angry person, but a suffering, terrified dog, or a person with feelings who's shown me anger. A suffering person who's shown me anger. So if we can do this, a little bit of work on each of these categories of people, what happens is we become an inner professional. And this is what Lama Zopa Rinpoche wants us to do. Just like we expect our teachers, paramedics, politicians to be professionals, to work for everyone without fear or favor. For us, what a spiritual path means is becoming an inner professional, to work for all sentient beings without fear or favor. And this is how we do it. And really, we expect a lot of professionals, don't we? We expect even the kindergarten teacher to love every single screaming toddler as much as we do and show as much care as we do. Whether they actually like them or not, that doesn't matter. It's showing that care. And how do professionals, especially those who care for others, get below the angry face, below the surface? It's by being an inner professional and finding this really deep common ground. So there's amazing story that I read actually about the deep south of America in times of the civil rights movement. And there must have been some kind of riot and a lynching, and quite a few people ended up in hospital. And of course, most of the nurses in the emergency department were all black. And who comes in wheeled on in the trolley but a Ku Klux Klan guy in his white sheet. And those nurses, they looked after him. They saved his life. How is that possible? Because those nurses knew beyond intellectual, philosophical, whatever, just deep human experience. Below the skin, we all bleed. And there it was in practice. Oh, it just gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. I'm so amazed by that. That really is being an inner professional right there. And you couldn't do it unless you were genuine about it. So this is what can inspire us. This is what we can aspire to. So in summary, then, we're coming to the end of our first session today. In summary about how to get off the rat race, this mortal coil, how to stop getting tighter and tighter and more stressy. Number one, you don't need to be a Buddhist or even religious to be able to enjoy the benefits of Buddhism. the wisdom, the insights, the practices of Buddhism. You don't have to become anything else or take on board some kind of foreign attitude. It's just about applying it to your own experience and seeing how it works. And actually we can begin to enjoy the benefits straight away, just trying it on and see how it goes, without having to turn into something else or convert or anything like that. Really taking it slow and building a strong basis. Where to start as a beginner Buddhist is with the 3 principal aspects of the path. That's a brilliant place to start. And, you know, it's like first world problems. There's so much Dharma teachings. Where do I start? I mean, how wonderful is that? But it can be a bit overwhelming, can't it? With all the amazing resources we have. Where do we get going? This is where we get going. How can we tell if the path that we're on is valid? Because we've checked out and we've checked the 4 qualities of a valid refuge, and then we develop some confidence. And where do we start with our own practice? With equanimity, not flatlining, but equal care for all, regardless of how they treat us at present, regardless of whether we even like them or not. It actually doesn't matter whether we like them or not, because that profound human connection is deeper than our personality traits, whether we get on, whether we agree or not. All of that's actually quite fickle and superficial. We're getting much, much deeper than that. And in all of that, just random kind of points for us to remember. It's attachment that ruins our happiness. So if we want to be happy, ironically, we've got to release that attachment and craving. If we want a better world, we're the ones that have to do it. We can't wait for anybody else. Even if we don't feel qualified or ready, we've got to start. It has to be us that starts. We have to do it first, and then others will come into our slipstream. We absolutely need equanimity, because if we don't have it, we're going to burn out. And we need equanimity on all the various levels. It becomes that stable middle way mind. Everyone matters, regardless if we get on or not. Everybody matters. Why? Because everybody has feelings. And equanimity, feeling equally drawn towards all beings. So we've probably got, we're just over time, but if are there any comments or questions that you'd like to pose at all? I know I just shove all the information in, don't I, much too fast and quickly, but is there anything at all? I can see your smiling faces, so that's a good sign, I suppose. So then perhaps we can dedicate. Hopefully you're satiated for this evening. I think for you guys in America, it's hopefully a nice way to end your week. Let's dedicate that we can develop equanimity in the heart, that we can become equally drawn towards all beings, that we can lead everybody along with us, along the path, all the way to day-to-day happiness, a better world, liberation, and enlightenment. So all of our efforts and attention, let's put all of that into these really big goals, and we'll get everything in between. So thank you so much.